Are you feeling the call to step up and really own how powerful you are as we walk towards building a new earth? Can you feel the shifts happening on our beautiful planet as the old patriarchal structures fall and we emerge into a new paradigm, a new earth? Are you ready to shed limitations that have stopped you stepping up, ready to serve, ready to live, ready to make the biggest contribution you can to our changing, evolving planet? Would you like to activate the greatest, most alive, vibrant, powerful version of you? Then come and join me in person in Perth or online for an incredible, transformational 2-day workshop experience with the amazing Denitsa Appeline Matic, designed to activate the superhero or superheroine within you. The event is on Saturday and Sunday, 14 and 15 September. If you're joining us in person, we have managed to secure the most stunning venue, nourished by nature, and we have the most delicious, nutritious food all ready and waiting for you. You can also join us live stream from around the world. Please note that tickets are very limited, so please get in quick. You can get your tickets at denitsaappolinematic.com. That's DANICAAPOLLINEMATIC.com. Click on courses and you will see the Superhuman course in there. I'll see you there. I was very excited to have another Kiwi on the podcast today. We have Irene Kalinowski, who lives in New Zealand and has been a practicing midwife for over 40 years. And she's worked in 4 continents: Europe, the Middle East, China, and New Zealand. She has also practiced homeopathy for 20 years and has lectured internationally. She's also authored many books, such as My Body, My Baby, The Heart and Soul of Midwifery, With Women, With Midwife, With Me, 3 Blind Mice, A Midwife's Tale, How Birth Was, How It Is, and How It Should Be, and many midwifery textbooks based on an integrated, holistic model of maternity care. It was very interesting having a chat with Irene and especially hearing about her work in China. And now that she's back in New Zealand, hearing all the exciting plans that she has to have an integrative approach to midwifery. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout podcast, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now, your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and a very warm welcome to Homeopathy Hangout. Today, we get to hang out with the lovely homeopath and midwife and author, Irene Kalinowski. Welcome, Irene.
Hi, it's great to be there with you all, and I'm sure you're doing amazing things through this madness we're going through. I'm so delighted to be able to talk to you. I've kind of been around on the screen and off the screen. So I've worked in New Zealand for 20 years as a midwife. I trained in England. I did a couple of years there, did 6 years in the Middle East. And then I found myself in China for 5 years, upskilling the midwives and obstetricians, giving them a homeopathic mindset, and actually putting homeopathy into some of the hospitals there.
Incredible.
So, yeah.
We are going to have to delve into all of that today. Before we jump in, though, can you tell us, Irene, how did you first get introduced to homeopathy?
Well, a long time ago, as everybody does, you have up and down relationships. I went through a divorce when I was younger, and as I was nursing my bowel, I had lots of constipation, and the doctors just kept giving me laxatives, which caused a bowel prolapse, which they fixed and shook my hands. But I said, why have I had this operation and I don't feel any better, So the next thing is I had a relationship, and it kind of nothing was related to stress. I had a little knowledge of natural therapies, a little bit when I was in the States. I'd seen amazing things, but not homeopathy. And I actually lost 3/4 of my bowel. And, the surgeon was absolutely fantastic, but I just didn't feel, the energies were not there. And I had lots of, issues. So when I came to New Zealand, I kind of ended up delivering the daughter to the people who ran the homeopathic college. It doesn't exist now, the Open College of Classical Homeopathy. Mm-hmm. And I walked into homeopathy that way. Mm-hmm. And it was a homeopath, actually, that came to me and said, Irene, I'll do your case. So she did. And then I had lots of issues, like, I couldn't speak out. I was quite shy, frightened to speak things out. So she actually went into my own history And like, I'm the daughter of Polish war refugees, and it comes from a story of them being the Volksdeutsche. And that is, they were displaced persons from Poland. And dad married mother in the German church. And even though they were Polish, and he was pulled into the German army fighting against his brothers. So when he defected, he went to England. He put on a Polish uniform because they can all speak 3 languages, and went to England. But he couldn't tell the Polish people he was helping that he was actually on the opposite side. So mother had this, so they couldn't speak the whole truth. And I think when she was carrying me, it was the same thing. I couldn't get the truths out. So it was a homeopath that gave me the remedies. It was calxil, by the way. And the words came out backwards and they started flowing. And then I got more into it, saying, wow, if it can do this to me, it can do it to everybody else. So by chance, I started homeopathy. And I qualified. I finished in 2001, but even in my 3rd year, I was teaching midwives up and down the country how to use it. And the issue there was homeopaths hadn't a lot of experience with labouring women. And a lot of the knowledge just came from the books. It wasn't kind of the hands-on experience. But as I used it and I saw how it can work, and sometimes I had to put combinations together because it fits into midwifery practice. To see a homeopath and just get the one single remedy takes a lot of time, and it's time that we don't have when we're on the road and doing things very quickly. So I actually started teaching homeopathy up and down New Zealand, and I used it here for 20 years. In the beginning, my birth rates before I went really holistic, the C-sections were about 28%. But in 2005, I've still got the stats, and they were 98% normal birth.
Wow. Statistics don't lie. That's incredible.
No, I've kept the 2005 ones because the other computers have crashed and things. And I thought, so that's what made me write the books. And kind of, if you fix the mindset, if you get the women to open up, because birth's like, it's the end of an era, but yet the beginning of a new one when a baby's born. And lots of things come out of the birth if women have held on to things. And if you can stem out and iron out those things using homeopathy, and especially during the pregnancy, the morning sickness is much less. They're much more positive, and the outcomes are much better. So that's how I got into homeopathy. And I teach midwives to have a homeopathic mindset. I think what really helped was I always teach the girls that, you can always tell, the belladonna woman who her contractions would go off if you put her in water. So, there's no point running the bath. Yeah. You've got the sepia woman who's quite independent. She wants to walk about and pace about. And she'll birth, on her own on hands and knees. So, the minute you put her onto a monitor, you're going to stop the contractions. Or the Natmer woman that will sit by herself in the bathroom and have
That's
the door
so interesting.
closed. Yeah. I mean, she'll open out to you. If she's had the gas and air, she'll just blow everything out, but she'll hold on to the birth and she'll be by herself. So once you understand the homeopathic personalities, you understand and you can accept the person in front of you without being judgmental.
That's beautiful. Yeah, no, absolutely. I never thought about it that way. And I love how I always think that, a lot of our listeners don't know that much about homeopathy. So I try to explain concepts as far as we go. And what Irene is saying, that typically belladonna people can be quite fiery. It's part of the Solanaceae family. So I can imagine if you're sticking that fiery personality in water, what you were saying, that's probably not going to work so well. And sepia women, they want to be independent and, so they probably want to walk around and not be held down. So I love what you're saying. That really makes sense.
Yeah, you've got the same with the pulsatilla because she wants to hold your hand. So so if you walk out of the room, the contractions are going to go off. They're beautiful pictures, and you don't need to use like hundreds of remedies in homeopathy. I think that having used them for 20 years, what I did while I was in China is I put 42 combinations together to cover absolutely every ailment. I've recorded 64 videos to teach women to self-care and be able to use those themselves. And Michael at Similimum Homeopathic Pharmacy has actually got them on his pharmacy there. So I've done
amazing.
I've done a handbook, and then I've done a separate handbook with what they do, but put all the rubrics in down the bottom for the combination so that they can easily say, oh, that's me,
Oh my gosh. How do we
Yeah.
how do we get hold of these, Irene? And is it more for
I'm
the
going to-
practitioners or the public
Well,
as well?
well, it's for the public as well. I've done it for women, and this is not about money. This is about, we know homeopathy works. So I will email them to you, and you can put them up there for the homeopaths to use, because that's my pleasure. You know, like I say, all the textbooks, I wrote a prenatal one for midwives, a prenatal manual for midwives. I've just done the second edition. It needed tidying up a bit, but that's got homeopathy and the homeopathic mindset all the way through it. And the midwives love it. And I mean, I took it out and I showed it to the girls because I was with Midwifery Today in Germany. We went to their conference in Germany. And I went with Meng Shu, who I was working with in China. And, you know, we were just boasting about how we'd reduced the C-section rates from 65% down to about 9% in hospitals out there. So, like, it was just wonderful. I've been on this never-ending journey. And that's what happened when Alistair Gray and Denise Sturgis came over from, you know, the Academy of Homeopathy Education in New York. So they came over, and I actually flew to New York, and that's when I recorded the 60-hour course for childbirth professionals. And it took a couple of years for them to get accredited, but they're really, really busy there because they've got an influx of homeopaths coming through. So I've said, well, look, we're in a situation now, because I've ended up working with Lily Excellence. So if you want to watch some of my lectures, if you just go to YouTube and tap in Lily Excellence, you'll find some of my lectures up there on normal birth and things.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
They're just heading up now. We're just working on an IT system to stage it all. So the course is going to be available this year, definitely. We've got Julie Gerland in Birthing the New Humanity. Yeah, they've got a platform too. So we're all working together, because putting the spirituality back into birth and shifting away from the medical system. So that's where I am at now. And I'm with the Wacky Health Council. And this is the first health council that actually has homeopaths, chiropractors, osteopaths, naturopaths. We're all side by side in this council.
And this is in New Zealand?
This is in New Zealand right now as we speak.
Okay.
Yeah?
You're sharing such great info, and I don't want to miss anything. Sorry, that 60-hour course, is that specifically for health professionals? So not necessarily homeopaths, like say a midwife that wants to learn how to use homeopathy?
Well, I think it's good for homeopaths because it makes you understand childbirth better, because I've got the midwifery perspective into it. So it covers everything. You'll love it because it's got the diet in pregnancy, you know, it's got the physiology in it. It's got the homeopathic remedies as applied to pregnancy. It's got the homeopathic remedies that deal with morning sickness, because when you talk about morning sickness, there's about, I think we found 24 emotional issues that women have just when they're pregnant. Yeah. So when I put the morning sickness remedies together, I put them more not on the physical morning sickness, but I actually put the key for the mental emotions. Yeah. So I'll give you an example of how it came about. Is women have a fear of finances. Yeah. They're restless, a fear of finances. The pregnancy may not be planned. They might be having an aversion to the pregnancy, even, which is a sepia. Sepia is a big hormonal remedy. Then you've got pulsatility, because I find mums or pregnant women tend to suddenly become more needy when they're pregnant. Yeah. And the other one is a natrum muriaticum, because of the early pregnancy headaches. And of course, it's all about being a mother. So I put them together, and I found that 90% of the time they work.
Amazing.
Yeah. So kind of putting those things together. So even if homeopaths do that course, they're going to come out with a lot so that they can also look after these pregnant women, because it's going to kind of crisscross, you know. I see the role that we are going to have in New Zealand as a midwife, because all the midwives are going to be trained in homeopathy and the Maori traditional medicines. And we're going to go back to being in the community where we can care for the family.
Beautiful. Tell us all about that. So then you went on to talk about this organization. So this is in New Zealand, where you've got all these practitioners working together. Talk to me about that.
Well, it was just set up 6 months ago with the doctor's SOS because, many of us didn't want to take the jab. So a lot of us lost our jobs. We lost our jobs and everything. So we stepped aside and we thought, well, how can we do this? And then it was the Maori government that, because we've got the real constitutional law, we've got the Treaty of Waitangi and the Maori Incorporation as well. So we're really covered to be able to step outside the corporate and be legal,
Wow.
which is kind of unique because a lot of countries don't actually have that yet. Yeah. So we're building up on that and everybody's kind of coming together. So I'm doing, midwifery. So I've done like a little handbook for midwives and we're just setting it up. I think we've only got about 5 or 6 midwives at the moment, but I'm sure that we'll be having much more because I went to Waihi and I've just done a documentary on, what the plan is and how I visualize it to be. I visualize that we're going to have more community centers, the prenatal, so that families come together to the community centers where they will get their prenatal education and their care. And then there'll be home births or there'll be little birthing units scattered around because we will have normal births using homeopathy and the holistic way. There's no doubt about it. Less interventions. Women have to take responsibility when they register with the Wakaminenga Health Council as well. It's a joint responsibility. We've taken a lot of the red tape out. We're over-regulated and the systems are there to punish the health professionals. They're not there to support them and enhance them. So we've cleaned it up and it's in its early stages. Of course, we've got funding to sort out because we have to look after women in a private capacity because we're not funded by this corporate system yet. But I think as we go through to our the real natural law and common law, then the funding is going to come down and then that will take care.
And how can people donate? Is it a charitable organization or is it something that people can donate to if they feel called?
Yes, they can donate to the Wakaminenga Health Council if they want to donate to it. A lot of us have been working pro bono. I've done all this pro bono, setting up everything. We're working, extra hours. Women have been just dumped. I had a caseload of women and I think I had one woman, a couple of women, but like they've got used to you. They don't want the vaccination. They don't want the jab. And it's like they've got 3 weeks to go before the baby comes and you're expected just to drop them. Well, I think the Ministry of Health have put all these women at risk.
Absolutely.
Mentally and physically and emotionally. So I looked after the woman. I just lived 5 minutes from the hospital. I took her up to 9 centimeters, but she wanted to go in. I wanted to go in as a support person. First they said I could, and then the next thing they came back and said I'm illegal. And so, but the woman went in and I was very sad because when she went in, the first thing they did was give her the epidural instead of a bit of tough love and let the baby come. So then she ended up with a forceps birth, the story. The other women I've had, I attended a New Year's Day birth.
Oh.
Yes, this was the woman's 5th birthday. They'd lost their house and home and everything. And I went up to the systems because she'd had 2 normal births and then 2 C-sections in between. But I could see the C-sections, a lot of it was to do with her emotions and interventions. So I could see she was quite a healthy woman and she's birthed before, so she could birth this time. So I treated both she and her husband for the things that they were holding on to. So the things that they were holding on to was probably some abuse from before, or the partner was from a very affluent family. And what happened is that he was expected to keep up to their expectations and live a corporate life. So quite a lot of psychological abuse, yeah. So when I gave them the remedies to help them on, of course, NAPMER came for both of them because it was holding on, and the Staphysagra, of course. So they slept and they were positive and everything was in balance. And so I went and I didn't have to do anything. I gave them the homeopathic remedies at the birth. I used some, spiritual activities to help the baby calm down. We had the
Wow.
candles. And this was like, it was the first time he was able to this baby skin to skin. So they were so ecstatic. And again, there's a lot of us like, well, what do you do when people have lost their house and home? I'm not going to turn around and say, I'm going to leave you abandoned and I'm going to do nothing. So it was a donation. So they sent me this beautiful big basket of goodies and they just put a little bit of money in it. And then, for me, $1 million would never give me back the happiness on their face, So I think that midwives can set up their own practices. There was another guy in Connecting Consciousness that I'm working with, and, the device between families, the vax, the non-vax, and the thinking. And he was getting a bit depressed. So he just came round, I had a chat and gave him some homeopathics. And the next thing he brought the decking so my husband could fix the deck in the garden. So like, the input of communities is if you give out, it comes in. We're all struggling to pay our bills, but somehow the universe takes care of us. And I think we've got to trust that.
Absolutely.
So homeopathy plays a huge, huge role, and like I said to you before this came on about the opium state, of people.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about that. So what do you mean about the opium state? Because some of the general public are not going to understand what you say, but I think it's important that you break this down for us because it really resonated with me when you said that earlier.
Well, I did a lot of thinking and like, when I walked out you go to a petrol station, somebody's wearing a mask, and I would say something like, do you realise we're in World War III? And they look and do nothing. Yeah, there's just nothing at all, no reaction, not a blink of the eyelid. And I thought, you're in an opium state. And I remember doing homeopathy because I do it as in my lectures, and I show them like a tennis player where the ball stood in front of their eyes and it's still spinning. And he's dazed, and he's not going anywhere. So kind of I use homeopathy to help wake people up. And the opium seems to do the trick. It's the same when a baby's born and it's stunned after a birth. Opium's a great remedy for that. So I believe that with all the paracetamols and the codeines, and if you go into hospital, the first thing they give you is morphine. So we've grown up on an opium state as well of all the hypnosis. So it's a big remedy to help people wake up. Yeah.
An amazing remedy for constipation.
Absolutely.
I've used that several times. But yeah, definitely it's been a remedy I've used a lot for traumatic births as well. Hey, when the baby just come out.
Yeah, the post-traumatic stress disorder that these women have, that with a bit of nutmeg will move them on, because we have to let go. Yeah, I think I learned a lot from my parents because they'd come through the war and I had their war stories, and like there was a lot of grieving. My mother was holding on, and afterwards I did give her some nutmeg, but there was that resentment. So she got the fluoric acid that went with it, and it seemed to help her lift. But understanding that and understanding what people go through when they go through post-traumatic stress disorders and they can't let go, homeopathy plays a huge, huge part.
It really does. Hilary Dorian, homeopath in the UK, once said that a lot of postnatal depression is actually misdiagnosed. It's actually post-traumatic stress. And if you look at what the birth, units look like sometimes with, how women's rights are completely taken away, and they come out of there with their baby in their arms, they arrive at home and they are actually in a state of trauma. And then
yes, but it's not only that. It's the simple things that we as midwives don't take into consideration when you're dealing with the emotional sphere. I suppose I can say I had a woman and we had 3 beautiful normal births, dim lights. She caught her own baby and everything, and we was having number 4. She still wanted to birth in the hospital, so I was in there with her. But I'd kind of helped a colleague of mine have her baby. She was a midwife. And, she'd heard that we'd just birthed a baby. So the midwife ran in the room, picked the baby up and put the baby on the weighing scales and destroyed that whole woman's birth experience. So it's the simple things. And I think that had she had a homeopathic mindset, she wouldn't have done that. So, this is what we need to too spread out. And, I'm seeing more and more traumatized people coming out of this and wakening up. And as the truths are coming out, we're going to need more homeopaths out there, especially for the emotional sphere, for the emotions. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, Irene, you're going to have to tell our listeners about your time in China because, obviously we've been in the same homeopathic Facebook group, which I actually started 9 years ago and just for homeopaths in New Zealand. And even though I'm now in Perth, I'm still in that group because it's just wonderful to stay connected with all the New Zealand homeopaths. And over the years, I've just seen photos of you from China. I'm like, oh, this Irene lady is doing amazing things. So you've obviously been on my radar for a few years. But tell us about China and what did you do there and how did you get the opportunity?
Well, it kind of took a lot of courage to go to China. Like I say, the system here, I was totally dissatisfied with it because it was very, very much controlling and not, it wasn't a happy place to walk into the hospitals. A lot of the staff were stressed themselves, which is happening all over the world. So I wrote the book, My Body, My Baby, and a song. And I wrote the lyrics and Edwina Thorne composed the music for me. Wow. So Meng Shu, who's been trying to change the health systems out there because it's very medical, she found me on LinkedIn and she invited me to China. So I went to lectures one time and I found myself standing in front of 800 people. And the passion and the Chinese midwives, nurses, obstetricians, they were all in the same room, was just so immense that I just loved it. And Meng Shu liked my vision. So she said, well, come and work with me. So I says, well, why not? I mean, I dropped my finances. I mean, I was working for peanuts compared to what we was earning here. But the opportunity, because I was based in a place in Shandong province in Linyi, but I'd actually travelled right up to Harbin, right down the south to Vietnamese borders, in the middle to Chengdu. So I'd been to many, many hospitals up and down China. And I can tell you that I cried so many times because you would see 3 women in a birthing room without any bathrooms and no partner allowed in there, and babies whisked off to neonatal units and things like that. And the hospitals, we went into, the doctors and the midwives, they were so stressed. They were so stressed because they were working by guidelines. So they were scared of birth. They were scared of getting litigation. They were just scared of everything and fighting each other and not sleeping. So Meng Su and I went in and we taught them emotional, spiritual, and wellness, and we taught them about homeopathy and how it can help the mindset. So we helped them. I used to treat a lot of the staff like this, so it worked on them. We started to bring it in. I had to do the history of homeopathy. So I went right back to 1935, when Rockefeller came in and they sent all their fake missionaries to sell the pharmaceutical things to around the world. They actually was pushing the medical side of it. But if you go to the Chinese traditional hospitals, there were some of the church missionaries putting homeopathy out there. So there were actually 4 homeopathic hospitals that I know in China that were attached to Chinese medicine hospitals.
Really?
Yeah. So I found that in the history, so because I love to find out, well, where are we now? So not only did I do that, when we were lecturing in front of all these people, I met a beautiful guy and he did hypnotherapy and he was a psychologist and he was quite spiritual. And he had a young boy that came into him who was fearful of going to school and would have these, the stomach pains and great fears. And I just put a couple of remedies together with gelsemium because I couldn't take a case on the boy, but I thought I've got to show them it works. I can't just fix this one and it not work, So I actually just gave some gelsemium and some calphos. I think it was calphos. And he says, oh my God, he's going to school. Yeah.
Amazing.
And then they would come up to me because there was a little boy that was biting his nails, and the nails were really half bitten off, even his toenails. And his mother said that, he would kind of have a tantrum, but then he'd hide in his bedroom and things like that. Well, I took, in China, there's a lots of nightmares because the kids have to be perfectionists. There's no connection with the kids. Natural muraticum, it's about control. They can control the kids. They want them to do as they want them to do. So I treat the mother and I treat the little boy, and his nails started growing. It was like, so the word kind of just spread around. Yeah. So a lot of people were interested in it. So we started to put the homeopathy in the hospitals. They could see, a woman would come in, she'd got high blood pressure, but all her blood tests were normal. And I gave her the Natmer because it's the fluid imbalance in the body. And it brought the blood pressure down very quickly. And they went, wow, this works,
Amazing.
So like being, hands-on and seeing it work in front of my face was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite exciting to see that happen. And of course, I've used homeopathy hands-on all the time, So witnessing these things, my students would see that too. So all across China, we put that in. We reduced C-section rates. We redecorated the hospitals. We put water birth pools in there. We even put like sea scenes on the walls. Put the traditional colours in there.
Wow.
So it was just awesome. And then, of course, COVID came. So then I was job hunt because we couldn't travel. And I was stuck there for 10 months because I couldn't get out. The prices were there and we was in the apartment. So that's when I thought I went back and I put them an online educational course, Normal Birth, which of course has got homeopathy in it. Everything's got homeopathy in it.
Yeah.
But then I wrote like 5 midwifery textbooks. Now each textbook is about 800 pages.
Wow.
It's got the physiology in it. It's got the homeopathy in it. It's got Chinese medicine in it. It's got the essential oils in it. And of course, I know these things work because of the specialists we brought from overseas to come and lecture out there and do it. I was like very honored to see all these beautiful people come out to China.
Wow.
Yeah,
and Irene, do you find that the Chinese people in general were quite receptive to homeopathy? Because I'm guessing that with qi and with their, energy-based medicine, probably homeopathy wasn't too far of a jump for them to make.
They're passionate about it. And when I did the lectures, and Michael Dong came over from Wellington. And, Helen, she came over to teach about the essential oils. Mm-hmm. So I brought quite a few New Zealanders over, which was quite fun. Yeah, it was quite fun to put together.
Absolutely amazing.
So I've had a ball of a time, really. And then I came to New Zealand and I'd written all these textbooks and put them all together. And I thought, what do I do now? But then I'd given the book My Body, My Baby, which has got homeopathy in it. And I sent it over to the Saudi midwives, because I'd worked in Saudi before and I got this passion for Bedouin women and birthing. So I sent that book out there and I said, right, I'm going to give you the book and you're going to translate it, but you're going to change all the names and you're going to change the diet of the women to suit your culture. But the homeopathy won't change and the stories don't change, but you just adapt it. So they adapted it into Arabic and they're using that book. And I said, for women, so anything you make on that book will go to support the midwives in your country. So the next thing was the publisher of that book contacted with me. So I wrote the second edition, the fourth edition of My Body, My Baby. And this publisher's taken my books and it's not costing me anything, because to publish books, there's lots of shady publishers out there. And I was taken for a ride before and never again. So then they've decided to publish my books and they've been accepted by the Saudi universities. So they're getting published as we speak. So everything's kind of happening. It's like this jigsaw puzzle that's coming together and bringing we homeopaths together, because I go to Lincoln Mall Pharmacy here in Henderson and meet Diane and the girls in there, and they say they refer, patients to me, but they know I always go in for my remedies and they know me, and they say it's good for you to be back because it's dropped down, it's lowered down a bit. The homeopathy is lowered down a bit with this. I said, well, it's now time to bring it back up again.
Beautiful. Well, with your incredible passion, that's not going to be hard to do. It's
Absolutely
completely shining
not.
through. Yeah.
Yeah, so when we get the homeopathic course up and running, I don't think it's going to be too long. I think we're looking about 12 weeks because they're getting the IT system done. Once that homeopathic course is up and running, it's 60 hours. Everybody does it in their own time. But then with Lily Excellence, we're going to do a monthly forum.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be able to talk about how the practitioners put it into their practice, and we're going to share stories so that we all grow together on a global platform,
Mm-hmm.
so that we really grow together. Yeah, so if any homeopath wants anything, they can get me at chainirene@gmail.com. I'm on Telegram and I'm on Messenger. So I'm happy to answer questions and to support people or anybody that wants to go into homeopathy.
Amazing, Irene. Now, can you maybe tell our listeners, so if there is a mum out there who is considering becoming pregnant or maybe pregnant already, and they're thinking about using homeopathy for their pregnancy and birth, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I would suggest they find a homeopath. Like I say, in New Zealand, I've listed up all the remedies, and the handbooks are there for women. And I'm just going to load those handbooks onto My Body, My Baby and things, so they can do a little bit of their own. But I would advise them to have a constitutional consultation. Yeah, I think that the sooner they can release everything, because sometimes if we don't look into ourselves, we don't realize we've got a hiccup or anything, you see. So like if they get a constitutional remedy, a consultation, it's a big help, because it's not just the remedy that they take, it's the homeopathic consultation. It's looking at them as an entity, and it's listening to them, just like you're listening to me, you know. We just let people talk.
Absolutely. I always say to them, I'm just going to sit here. You just get out of your system whatever you need to get out. And that process in itself, it's so therapeutic. Hey,
so healing. Yeah.
Definitely. And what are your hopes and dreams for homeopathy and midwifery into the future?
Well, like I say, we've already got the curriculum together. The midwives are going to be trained in homeopathy. We were talking with the Wakimanenga Health Council. We're talking about when the hospitals and the community centres, we're going to have homeopathy in there. Yeah. So it's where it should be, and it's where it needs to be. I think if you go right back to, I think it was 1845, and you go to Philadelphia, and you look at the statistics, I think it was 65,000 births. And the doctors then were homeopaths and obstetricians. And the mortality rate was only 0.01%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's taken 100 years for our medical docs to get there, and they haven't got there yet. So it shows that homeopathy worked. It's in the statistics, and it is the future. And like I say, you need to go and do some research on the med beds. Yes,
med beds. Can you please tell us about that? You mentioned that before we started recording, but yeah, please tell the public about it.
Well, I've just spent the last 2 years, because, I'm very curious. So I've been on this roller coaster ride with all this intel, with what's happening around the world and the reports coming through, following everything around the world. And we know that they have developed med beds, and these med beds are actually work on the dynamic, on the life force, and they can detect where your energy levels are out, and they can actually spin them back.
Wow.
And from what I understand, they can cure Alzheimer's. They can actually help with paralysis. There's so many things that they can help with that our hospitals are not going to be the same. You can actually do surgery on them without having to have a general anesthetic.
Wow.
So this is what's coming. I know they haven't released it all yet, I think, because there's so much happening. We know that things are happening under the scenes that we don't know about, but you can see it if you follow your research. You can find the truth. The truth's out there.
It's out there, yeah.
A lot of people want to see it to believe it. They have to see it. But I think if you're really spiritually connected, if that information's right or wrong. We know if that person's pulling the
wool over our eyes.
Yeah. We know that. I think the more in tune we are with ourselves. going to go back to why as well for midwives and health professionals, I always had this question. I would go into the hospital and the midwives would have ailments or sicknesses or chesty colds and they couldn't help themselves. And I always raise the question, why, if a health professional can't help themselves, how can they help others? That's what's so wrong with our system, and it's not a preventative model. It's a watch. You just watch. You wait for a problem to happen, and then you give the pharmaceutical drugs when it happens. Yeah, but with the holistic way and anticipatory care, and the physiology, we know, for example, like the nitric oxide levels. That nitric oxide and the levels are reduced from the external toxins. They're reduced from giving too many supplements. They're reduced from stress. They're reduced from everything. Well, it's like dumping sugar into your system, which constricts your blood vessels. So if the health professionals don't understand any of this, how can they advise a woman?
Yeah, absolutely.
To get well? Yeah, so I think that we're going to see great changes. We're going to be sharing what we have. I think on Wakaminenga, it's going to be great because we don't often get homeopaths and midwives in the same classroom or whatever. But I think we're going to see that change because we're going to be inviting people into our lectures.
Beautiful.
It's going to interchange. In China, we had obstetricians, midwives, and pediatricians and nurses all in the same classroom.
Beautiful.
All walking side by side. So there was no hierarchy. There was no distance. We made sure they all sat in the same coffee rooms, that they started to talk together. So we're going to see this huge change. Our health system, we're not going back to the old because the old didn't work. Yeah. And it's certainly we're not going back to the new normal.
No, there was never such thing to start with.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think that yes, even for yourselves, if you're not homeopaths out there and you're listening to this, study it for yourselves because you learn who you are. I think when I studied homeopathy, I learned more about me than I could ever put together. I could see myself. I could feel myself. It really, connected me with Mother Earth and nature.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love this beautiful vision that you're holding, Irene. And obviously having seen that in China with seeing these different, medical professionals alongside homeopaths, you've seen that and it can happen and it has happened. And we need to just bring that more into the West and certainly more in New Zealand and Australia for sure. Certainly in Australia where, having come from New Zealand where a lot of people know what homeopathy is. And then when I moved to Perth 5 years ago, I was really astounded how few people know what homeopathy is. And in the last 5 years, there has been a huge surge of people getting into homeopathy, and it's been really encouraging. It feels like it's the aha moment that a lot of people have been waiting for. But now we need to take that next step and use it alongside, the medical model, and it can be done. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, especially I talked about the hypnotherapist and helping that boy, or he had, I think, the arsenicum woman or child that came in and had to have everything meticulously all put in space, you can see these pictures. You don't need to go back to repertorize every remedy because you picture them, you remember them, don't you?
Absolutely.
So just helping those things, or even with the is traditional medicine practitioners, because it does work on mind and body, but they don't understand why. They know it will swing it back into balance, but they don't totally know what the homeopaths can pick out of this. So when we work together with it, we get the most amazing results.
Absolutely. And especially with traditional Chinese medicine, I've always said that's the one other modality. If I was ever if homeopathy wasn't so all consuming and I had time to study something else, that would be my other thing, because just the little bits that I know about it, for example, grief in the lungs and anger in the liver, and that comes from TCM is wonderful for us to know.
Well, I ate some really bad food out there. Unfortunately, we were upskilling in the traditional hospitals because that's where we had most movement. We had most movement in the traditional hospital, right on the Vietnamese border. And like we went in there and I'd eaten some bad fish and I didn't, it was fish or it was seafood or it was something. And like the homeopathy just didn't quite hold. It was horrendous. So I went in there and they just laid me down on the table. I was just like, oh, and I just really wanted to throw, nothing would come up. So I just lay down on the couch and they just touched the 2 acupressure points, the 1-2 centimeters above your umbilicus and the 1-2 centimeters below it at the same time. They just pushed their fingers in there. I brought everything up, stuffed some ginger in my mouth. And then they put some I used acupuncture and then they put the heat coals on me and I was back at work the next day. I was just back at work, It was just amazing. Or like, I had an operation on my ankle because I used to be a very sporty person. So one leg sometimes, I think it's just a bit tight. So one leg get a bit tighter than the other. And then I get my back comes out, So, just from where I lived in Qingdao, I went to the Chinese medicine hospital, a really friendly guy. And I've got my WeChat because I don't speak Chinese. So I had to tap everything in and do the translate on it. But he knew straight away. He just touched the 2 points of my head, just straightened me up, a little bit of acupuncture, and I was out again. But I needed the aesculus because, aesculus is that we get the uric acid deposits in our bite.
Horse chestnut, the homeopathic remedy made from horse chestnut. Hey?
Yeah.
Just for our listeners.
So kind of, I use the aesculus a lot because sometimes I'm spending a lot of time on the computer and stuff like that. And then the acid deposits really start in my muscles. And I just take that and then I'm just dancing away and swinging around,
That's incredible. Well, I don't know aesculus for that. I obviously know it it's great for hemorrhoids and veins and that sort of thing. So yeah, interesting. Every single podcast, I learn something new. It blows my mind.
Well, that's what we're here for, isn't it? To share all this stuff and talk about these things so we can all generate and so that we can all grow from it because we all attract different clients, don't we? We attract different things. Like with me and midwifery, for example. Okay, so you get a woman and she's got mastitis and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I can't get to the house, and I'm not going to spend an hour on the phone doing a full thing. So to see if it comes on quickly, which is the belladonna, or if it's come on slowly, which is the bryonia, or if it's a phytolacca. So I just put the 3 together and I get them to get a little kit and put it in the house. They can't afford to buy all the different separate remedies then in any case. So you do that and then you grab some potato and ginger and you slap it on their boobs and you fix the whole problem, with the diet. Of course, they've got to fix the diet, So when it's fixed, and my student nurses say, what? No antibiotics? This is, they only kill the bugs, honey. They don't help the body to work. You have to stimulate the body to work.
Absolutely.
So I haven't written scripts out, medicine scripts in a long, for years, really. So I've got the community coming now because of this COVID thing. I had a guy who was severely constipated, and he came in and his legs were up like balloons and his bowel was up to his belly button. And I just looked at him and I knew it was, first thing was the diet. And I said, look, I can give you something for the constipation, but the problem is we've got to fix what comes from before that. So I'm looking at you now. I'm just going to tell you to put some bread and some rice in a bowl and put water on it. What does it do? And they say, I says, well, that's what it's doing with your body. It's taking the fluid out of your bowel and it's put it into your limbs. So now we've got to change the diet to put that fluid back into your body and get it out of there, right? So then, so we eat the bean, as I says, now put some beans and lentils in a bowl and put the water in them, And I says, the water will stay there forever. The beans only take what they want, but they absorb that water and they give it back to you. So you now need to, get some bean soup with some cabbage in it and put some pepper in it because pepper stimulates the bowel. And then once you've done that, then you can take this homeopathic medicine because it'll fix your constipation, but it won't, we've got to fix this bit first. So that's kind of how I put the physiology together.
Beautiful.
With the homeopathy to get the results. Yeah. And that's
amazing.
all in the books, and that's what it's about. Yeah.
Amazing. Irene, I'm going to make sure I put all your links in there, including the Waikamaninga.
Wakamaninga.
So you're going to have to email that to me so I can put all that in the show notes and people can find out how
put it
to.
up there, yeah.
Oh, cool. Wakamaninga.
Yeah.
And find out where they can purchase your books and your courses. And we'll put AAG link on there just for when it's ready and they can just keep an eye out on there. But thank you so much for the incredible work that you're doing, because from clinic experience and from personal experience, I know that when a woman gets to have an empowered birth, whatever that might mean for her, but, usually natural, physiological, vaginal birth, everything else flows on so much easier from that. And your chances of establishing breastfeeding and not having postnatal depression and easier bonding and all that is often so much easier. So if we can empower them with homeopathy to have the birth that they desire, then everything's much easier after that.
I think so. And what we're doing, we're going to train lots of midwives up from new. We will take some of the other midwives over, but we won't take anyone that just wants to be sat in and continue just with the medical model. Yeah, it's got to be new. Everything's got to be from scratch. We've got to, establish this, which I'm quite excited about doing. I think it's a gift. I think I can see the jigsaw puzzle coming together, from my entire life, because I tried to leave midwifery. I tried to do other things and it kept bringing me back. and like, just my adventures in China and coming back to New Zealand. And I'm thinking, well, what do I do now? And then suddenly I met the Doctor's SOS and I was, I didn't have to look. I didn't have to look where I'm going. And I'm going down to Waihi because I met the real nice community from the Hapu down there who were establishing everything. So they've got their own little church thing going in their community. So I'm going to go down in maybe a couple of weeks and teach them homeopathy, and they're going to put it in their little center so they can take care of themselves. Yeah.
Oh,
so So like all this is happening, and like I say, the universe will take care of us, and it's just meant to be. And I just want to see more homeopaths out there working together with all us other like-minded professionals in our different avenues, because knitting together is only going to make it better, a more spiritual world. And like you said, the babies that I had the pleasure of being with, 1,000 of them, the babies who have least intervention, where the woman's mind is absolutely balanced when she goes into birth and she's confident, and you reduced all those fears, the babies are happier, they're healthier, and there's hardly any problems. There's hardly any problems to deal with. If we wait and let Mother Nature do what it needs to do, the problem is that they haven't been teaching the women to take care. So we've got a lot of obesity around. We've got a lot of problems. I'm worried about the women who have had the vaccinations in pregnancy as to what's going to turn up at a birth. I really worry about that for a lot of women. Some are fine, but I've seen more meningitis.
Okay.
Because I've been doing postnatals, I've been helping another midwife, and so she subcontracted to me. And then, I was doing postnatals, so I was dealing with a lot of babies readmitted with meningitis, and that's only like after 2 out of 6 babies. I've never seen it before. Preterm birth is scary because that was happening, but nobody's linking it.
That's why I think homeopathy is got absolutely the medicine for now and into the future, because with the experimental shot that people are getting, the reality is there's no long-term safety testing. It was all rushed through. So the types of the fallout that we're going to see from this is something that we're going to see for many years, I believe decades and possibly generations to come. And the types of things that we're going to be seeing is things that are going to be pretty out of whack. And that's where homeopathy, the weirder, the better. We're going to be seeing lots of weird stuff, and homeopathy is great for weird stuff.
Well, I kind of brought the lockdown rules. I went to the homes of women and went into them, And, you see a woman and she's had a sixth child and the husband's in that house and the kids, from teenagers going down, they're all living in like 3 bedrooms. You see broken window on the walls. You see abuse there. You see all those things, and you're trying to lift these women out of depression. And this is where homeopathy plays a big, big role in fixing these issues. And we're going to see a lot of that because a lot we don't know about because of the isolation.
That's true.
A lot what people don't want to, they're afraid to open up, and when the truths come out, a lot of people will hold back. They'll either be angry, or a lot of them will be the nightmares that are holding it all back and won't let it come out, and then they'll just suffer in silence. So I think there's going to be a lot of sweet cleaning up and a lot of people that need our help. Even our friends that have, I couldn't get to go to Christmas because I didn't take the vaccination, and I've gone, to friends for years. And, I just put on Facebook, look, I forgive all of you, I forgive you. And there's one day we're going to come back. So we just need to nurture and support each other through these times.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today, Irene. I really appreciate it. And your passion just shines through and it gets me so excited. And I'm excited for all these practitioners that are going to be, getting better advice on how to use homeopathy in childbirth, because it is definitely a very different process than, any other form of acute or chronic prescribing. So that gets me very excited that you've put all this information out there. And thank you for sharing your time so generously.
Well, that's right. And we're going to work together, because I'll just say one last thing is that, through all the courses, the midwives will be able to teach the acutes and the emotional things that, that appear on board. But like for the constitutional cases, and that means that like the long-term asthmas and things like that, they're going to learn to work very close with the homeopaths to help fix those things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're going to see homeopaths in our community centres. We're going to be drinking herbal teas together.
Kombuchas. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Irene. And I will be speaking with you very soon. And I look forward to AHE bringing out that course. It sounds very exciting.
And I'll put you those books up there that I've done. I'll email them to you, darling, so you can just let them, homeopaths, get a hold of them.
It'll be amazing. Thank you so much. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.